Hello honeys, today we'll be ranking 48 side characters from the original Aikatsu anime. I picked the ones I thought were the most memorable, so let me know if there are any more that you would have included. Enjoy! 48. Maguro. Maguro is the host of Dancing Tuna Palace, a long-running variety show, and he kind of creeps me out. I think he's based on real Japanese variety show hosts, but I don't like the way he interacts with middle school girls. He doesn't do anything terrible, but the creepy vibe is there. 47. Itsumo Miteru. The same is true to a lesser extent with Itsumo. He's a cameraman you'll mostly recognize from the Christmas tree episodes. His character starts out as a stalker / paparazzi gag since you're meant to be a little unsettled by him at first. It's all innocent in the show, but I'm too old to overlook the weird context there. 46. Greengrass. Greengrass, the designers of Aurora Fantasy, have a very limited presence in the anime. I still have to do a deep dive on them, but from my memory, we don't learn much about them. I like their aesthetic and their history as illustrators. There's definitely more to be explored in their giant greenhouse studio. 45. Marcel. Marcel, the magical toy designer, has a few more appearances, but we don't know that much more about him. He seems nice, and there's some depth you can glean from his career. He's shown with a captive monkey early on, and I can only hope that it's been surrendered to a more appropriate facility by the time we see him again. 44. Nagaoka. The designer of Sakura Irokaren, Nagaoka, has some depth to his career as well. He's the headmaster for Miyabi's school, which must make him very busy. It's easy to miss the details they sprinkle in about him, so it'd be fun to do a deep dive on him too one day. I mostly remember his dedication to traditional Japanese culture and unique approach to teaching. 43. Kitauji Sakon. Sakon is Sakura's twin brother, and I don't personally enjoy his dynamic with her. He's a kid, so I won't be super harsh, but the protective older brother trope is not relatable to me, and I find it even more ridiculous when they're literally twins. I'm glad we see him grow out of it a little. 42. Toku Tokui. I put Tokui on the list mostly out of respect for his dedication to Aikatsu. He is a passionate journalist and MC who covers an impressive range of idol-related events in the series. He always seems to be coming from a good place, and I do relate to him a bit as a super fan myself. 41. Atsuro Muleta. I'm not super clear on why Muleta was included in the series. It might have just been to meet a demand for younger male characters. But he's the apprentice designer of Sangria Rosa, and the one appearance he gets is cute. He seems to be very dedicated to his work and willing to work through challenges, which are endearing qualities. 40. Kamishiro Rei. Rei is the designer of Futuring Girl. He's an angsty, melodramatic guy who I think should have stayed as an older woman like the original concept. His reclusive nature is interesting, and he shows up enough for us to get some insight into his personality. I wish all of his coworkers luck. 39. Tsubasa Senna. As the designer of Dreamy Crown, I do respect Senna for his admiration of Angel Sugar and Ichigo. He shows up a lot, so there's plenty of reason for fans to be attached to him. But as you can guess from his ranking, he's not my type of character. Aloof male love interests in general tend to give me an ick. 38. Fujisaki Shoichi. I much prefer the Angel Sugar groundskeeper, Shoichi, who is always ready and willing to lend a helping hand. He's implied to have a close relationship with Asuka, and I wouldn't mind them as a couple. He seems both nice and reliable, which I appreciate. 37. Suzukawa Naoto. Speaking of groundskeepers, Naoto is in a similar situation as Senna for me. I do like his janitor to teacher, Hannah Montana boy band, secret sister character arcs. There's a lot going on with him. He's just another one of those aloof young male characters who I don't have much interest in. 36. Makina. Makina is the designer of Swing Rock. She shows up a few times, my favorite appearance being her collaboration with Angel Sugar. She's cool and seems to have a few different creative skill sets. I like how open-minded she is despite her edgy appearance. 35. King. King is the only member of Naoto's band More Than True on this list, and it's because I think he's the only one with a memorable personality. I find his vulnerability more compelling than the more standoffish male characters. I also support his messy relationship with Naoto. I hope they are boyfriends and stay in love forever. 34. Hoshimiya Raichi. If Raichi wasn't such a developed character, I might have him a little lower. Director Kimura talks about him with concern most of the time since his idol obsession is a bit of a red flag for his adult life. but we do see him develop a well-rounded identity, so that's good. I was happy to see him growing up in a positive direction in Starway to the Future. 33. Nashijima Sabuko. Sabuko is the enka singer who's friends with Mizuki and uses that giant Aikatsu card. I admire her for her sheer power, even though we only see her in one episode. It's great to see an experienced entertainer looking out for her juniors, and she goes out of her way to protect them too. 32. Sgt. Pepper. It's kind of crazy to name Sgt. Pepper after a Beatles album, but here we are. This is one of the most cartoonish characters in the whole series, but I like his role as an antagonist to Akari and how that contrasts his more positive relationship with Ichigo. He's a great mirror to the protagonist in that sense. 31. Atsuji Enciero. Enciero is the designer for Sangria Rosa, and I like that he represents both passion and burnout. I wish we could have seen him more often, but there seems to have been a push to replace him for whatever reason. He may be a Spanish caricature, but he did bring some fresh cultural elements to the show. 30. Yotsuba Shun. Yotsuba is another male character that was added at the request of female staff members, as far as I remember from the interviews I've read. He's pretty bland, but I like his idol backstory. His message of continuing to pursue new passions even after you've achieved your goals is very sweet. 29. Miwa Satsuki. I'm a little biased against Satsuki since she's introduced as a character that clashes with Sakura, and I relate to Sakura a lot more. But I like the role she ends up in as a friend and occasional partner to Sakura instead. I hope she finds success in her idol career. 28. Hikami Azusa. Azusa is Sumire's older sister and the person who introduces Sumire to her primary interest of singing and fortune telling. She's shown to be responsible, supportive, and interested in fashion. Her characterization is a little shallow, but she appears often enough that you get a good idea of her personality anyway. 27. Hoshimiya Taichi. Taichi is Ichigo's dad. He's written the way he is to frame his absence in the show as a positive thing, which I understand, but I wish his relationships with other characters were more fleshed out. He's where Ichigo gets half of her personality, so it'd be nice to understand him better. 26. Hisho. I love Hisho. She's the secretary for Featuring Girl. I think we only get one episode with her, but for everything she puts up with at work, I hope she is paid well. If I ever had to contact a 14-year-old child actor to convince my boss not to cancel a product release at the last minute, I think I'd quit. She's very strong. 25. Kamino Serio. Serio is Juri's dad. Similar to Enciero, I think the tiny bit of cultural diversity he brings is inherently interesting in such a monocultural series. I like that we get to see him in a few different contexts, and he's always supportive of his family. I want to know how he and his wife met. 24. Kurabayashi Karen. Speaking of his wife, I feel very similarly about Karen. She's a little more interesting because we know some of her backstory as a successful actress. It's clear that her career put strain on her relationship with Juri, and I like when they explore that conflict. They seem like they're working through it as best they can. 23. Nijigahara Makoto. Makoto is the Happy Rainbow designer, and I'm a bit conflicted on him. At face value, from an American perspective, I always liked both his feminine style and his strict personality. But learning about the history of his character archetype in Japan has made me feel a bit differently. I'm interested to see how he'll fit into the cultural landscape in 10 or 20 years. 22. Ozura Koharu. Koharu is Akari's mom, and she seems very nice. I'd like a professional psychiatrist to analyze her parenting style and its impact on Akari, but I'm not smart enough to psychoanalyze her any more than I already have. From what I can tell, she's a cute mom doing her best. 21. Shinjo Emma. Emma is the senior that Ron looked up to and lost her Spicy Yagaha audition to. She's presented as an extremely successful stylist, and I'd be interested in hearing more about her backstory. She kind of has Mizuki vibes, but in a fashion-oriented way. Her small cameo as a model toward the end of the series is nice. I'm glad she's doing well. 20. Himuro Asami. Asami is a member of Splash, and her character is very reserved. I understand that she loves Michelle, her partner, and that's wonderful. But I mostly put her this high up because of what I'm inferring about her as Michelle's partner. We don't actually know much about her at all. 19. Minoa Hikari. Hikari's placement is probably a little controversial. I don't feel as attached to her as a lot of fans seem to feel. She has a fun personality, an interesting rivalry with Ron, and some iconic lines. But I only know her from the anime, and her appearances there are pretty limited. I'd probably like her more if I knew more about her. 18. Tachibana Michelle. In comparison, I feel like I have a better sense of Michelle as a character. She's the second member of Splash, and because she's so outgoing, I have a stronger gauge of what drives her as a character. She shows a lot of love for both her work and Asami, which is beautiful. 17. Yumesaki Tiara. Tiara, the headmistress of Dream Academy, can feel a little contrived to me at times, but I like her role in the story. It's a bit convenient that she is 100% respectful of Starlight and Orihime and has no ulterior motives for creating a competing school, but she does function well enough as a rival character, so I'm happy with her for the most part. 16. Ozura Manabu. Manabu is Akari's dad, and to be honest, I'm on his side. I'd pick him over Akari, and I'd love to learn about Soil from him. We see him go from a supportive, engaged parent to being pretty harshly rejected, which is more painful to watch as an adult. It's an understandable dynamic for the parent of a teenager, but I do feel bad for him. 15. Saigusa Sanae. Sanae is Ki's mom, and I love her. She's a doctor for an isolated community, and takes great care of Ki throughout her childhood. I find her interactions with Ki to be very comforting personally, so I would have enjoyed seeing her more often. Her episode is one of my favorites. 14. Kanon. The only movie-exclusive character on the list is Kanon, the singer-songwriter responsible for one of my all-time favorite anime scenes. I like her maturity as well as her independent creative spirit, which is a good contrast to the corporate environment of the show's idol industry. She's also based on one of Aikatsu's real songwriters, so that's fun. 13. Hattori Yu. Yu's arc has me a little torn. On the one hand, I like her evolution into a TV travel guide, but I don't really like how Akari-focused her story becomes, and I don't like that it was originally meant to be even more Akari-focused. I want her to be closer with her new roommate instead. 12. Sunny. Sunny is a designer of Dance Fusion and Johnny's former dance partner. I love what he contributes to Johnny's backstory as well as his own direction as a character. It's important to show kids that it's possible to pivot careers even after you get older. 11. Tachibana Anna. In comparison, we know less about Anna, the spicy Agaha designer, but the bits and pieces we do get are very interesting to me. I like her implied backstory as a former model who continues to use that background to support emerging talent in the industry. Her vague history with Orihime would have been very cool to explore. 10. Amahane Asuka. Asuka is too important to the story to leave her out of my top 10. She's the Angel Sugar designer and a critical part of both Ringo's and Ichigo's careers in the series. I appreciate her wisdom as well as her patience in teaching many characters even up to Aikatsu on Parade. I still regret leaving out that she mentored Sora in my deep dive about her. 9. Tsukikage Honoka. Honoka is also incredibly important to the original story. She's basically Mizuki's reflection, a representation of her true self behind the idol mask. That's why they're so close. As her own person, I admire her professionalism and desire to look out for a kid she's essentially helped to raise by the end of the series. 8. Hateruma Minami. Minami isn't nearly as important to the series, I just like her a lot. I really enjoyed her episode and her backstory as Rin's childhood friend. I love her personality as well as her continued relationship with Rin. I would have given her the double episode feature and personal brand over Nina for sure. 7. Hoshimiya Ringo. I respect Ringo, Ichigo's mom, even though I think she has the less interesting story between her and her masquerade partner. It's still cool that she chose to give up her entire platform as a celebrity to pursue her own business. Her parenting style is a huge part of why Ichigo is successful in the show, which I thank her for. 6. Kisaragi Lucy. Lucy is the Dolly Devil designer, and her placement might seem disproportionate to her screen time, but I find her very fun. I enjoyed the deep dive I did on her and all the context I learned behind her character. She has a great relationship with Lisa and Nono and becomes an important supporter for them, which is nice. 5. Kayako. Kayako is higher because she does have the screen time to warrant a placement like this. She's the Vivid Kiss designer, and her role in bringing Hinaki and Mikuro together as peers is one of my favorite details from the series. She seems to genuinely want the best for the kids she ends up working with. 4. Yumekoji Maya. Maya, the lily gothic designer, is just barely missing my top 3. Beyond his appeal as a campy vampire guy, I resonate with the undertone of ostracization in his backstory. His identity is a point of conflict between him and the world around him, and he accepts Eureka so strongly because she shares his courage in standing up for herself. I really like that messaging. 3. Mitsuishi Orihime. Orihime has so many strengths, interesting backstory, an important role as either an ally or antagonist, and a surprisingly nuanced worldview. There's an ongoing debate in my head over how much responsibility she has in shaping Mizuki's mindset. I'm really excited to explore that more deeply in the future. 2. Sayonji Tsubaki. For a one-off character, Tsubaki is probably the side character I see the most potential in. Akari's Caravan audition was supposed to have 2 winners, and I think Tsubaki would have made a perfect rival for her, in a very Yume Laura way. But we did get Yume Laura later, so I can see that dynamic has been explored in canon already. Still, that little AU in my head keeps growing every time I think about the Akari generation. 1. Johnny Bepp. Of course, Johnny is my number 1. His comedic role is great, and he has worked very hard for me over the years. But I also appreciate him as a staff member primarily dedicated to supporting students when they're in over their heads. He is great at being present but keeping his distance to allow characters to grow through challenging situations. I think he's genuinely underappreciated in that capacity, and it's a skill set that more people should learn. Let me know your favorite side characters in the comments below, and look out for my album cover ranking next week. Bye bye!